The Conquest of Mexico. After the native populations of the Caribbean island chains had been practically wiped out through disease and forced labor, Spanish conquistadors pushed inland looking for riches. Locals learned to tantalize the Spanish with tales of cities of gold just further up the river or trail. In 1519, Hernán Cortés led his men into the interior of Mexico and conquered the Aztec people. The reason why historians know so much about the conquest of Mexico was because one of Cortés's men, Bernal Diaz, wrote a memoir in his old age about the expedition. At the time of the conquest, the Aztec population was as high as 10 or 20 million people. The capital of the empire was Tenochtitlan and contained 200,000 citizens, or 3 times larger than Spain's largest city of Seville. The city was on an island in the middle of Lake Texcoco, only accessible from causeways. The Aztecs resembled the Spanish in many ways. They were fierce and warlike, yet deeply religious. During a drought in 1450, they cut out the hearts of victims with obsidian knives as an offering to their god. The drought lifted and human sacrifice soon became widespread. The Aztecs made war against other local tribes in the hopes of capturing more victims for sacrifice. This fact made it easy for the Spanish to acquire the necessary allies to defeat the Aztecs. Despite the brutal act of human sacrifice, Aztec society was the most advanced civilization in the Americas, with rigid social structures, over 40,000 temples, and clean cities that juxtaposed the dirty and cramped avenues of a typical Spanish town. Hernán Cortés was born to a noble, yet low-ranking family in Spain. He sought his fame and fortune in the New World. He found favor with the governor of Cuba, Diego Velázquez, and was provided with his own encomienda, or plantation. The relations between the two men became strained when Velázquez realized that whoever conquered Mexico would win fame and fortune. Velázquez revoked the charter he had signed that allowed Cortés to explore Mexico. Cortés ignored the orders and departed anyway, with 11 ships and 500 men in February of 1519. When he arrived at Tabasco on the coast of Mexico, he defeated local natives in a battle and received 20 women from the defeated natives, one of whom was La Malinche, his future mistress. Malinche was extremely important, as she informed Cortés about the wealthy Aztec Empire and then became his translator. Once on the mainland, Cortés sunk his ships to prevent his men from staging a mutiny and returning to Cuba. As the men pushed into the interior of Mexico, they made alliances with neighboring tribes who disliked the Aztecs but were too afraid to rebel. One such group was the Tlaxcalans, and after a brief battle in which the Spanish were almost wiped out, the leader of the tribe decided that it would be better to align themselves with the Spaniards and fight the Aztecs together. Cortés presided over the baptism of the leaders of Tlaxcala, and an alliance was formed. Their next stop was the city of Cholula in October of 1519. Cholula was an extremely important city for the Aztecs. It was the second largest city, behind only Tenochtitlan, and was the religious center of the empire. The Aztecs at Cholula prepared an ambush once the Spanish arrived. Cortés was informed of the plan by Malinche and launched a preemptive strike on the leaders of the city. In November, Cortés and his forces finally arrived in Tenochtitlan. They met with the emperor, Moctezuma, who accepted the invitation to pledge his loyalty to the King of Spain. The Spaniards demanded the Aztecs to remove their idols from the main temple pyramid in the city, and Christian symbols be put up in their place. Moctezuma also appeased their demands. Cortés's next move came as a complete shock to Moctezuma. Under the pretext that Aztecs had killed some of his men during their journey, he placed Moctezuma under arrest. He continued to live as emperor under the command of Cortés. In April of 1520, Cortés's enemy, Velázquez, sent another expedition, led by Panfillo de Narváez, to arrest Cortés for mutiny and treason. Cortez left 200 men in the capital and left for the coast to confront Narvaez. Despite being outnumbered 5-1, he captured Narvaez during a bold night maneuver. He then convinced him and his 1,100 men to join him on his quest for gold. They agreed to join. While Cortez was away, his second-in-command, Pedro de Alvarado, angered the people of Tenochtitlan by massacring thousands of Aztecs in their main temple. Cortez returned to the capital in a hurry to quell the rebellion caused by Alvarado. The Aztec nobility chose a new leader, Moctezuma's younger brother, Cuitlac. Moctezuma attempted to restore peace, pleading from the palace balcony for the people to end the revolt. He was jeered and stoned by his own people, getting severely injured in the process. It is not clear if he died from his wounds, or if Cortez found little use for a leader who had lost the loyalty of the people and had him killed. The Spaniards narrowly escaped the city, and many men, weighed down with their heavy armor and gold, drowned. Others were left behind to fight their way through thousands of Aztec warriors. The Spanish lost over 600 men, 1,000 allied warriors, and all of their booty during their retreat. It is known as La Noche Triste, or the Sad Night. The Spanish retreated to their allies in Tlaxcala, while the Aztecs continued to harass them in pursuit. Despite their earlier alliance with the Tlaxcalans, Cortez knew that they still shared the same religion and customs as the Aztecs. Cortez devised a divide-and-conquer tactic to keep his allies loyal to him. He promised them tax-exempt status, the city of Cholula, and a share of the spoils of war. The Spanish and Tlaxcalan alliance began conquering the neighboring ally cities of Tenochtitlan. One by one they all fell, through battle or diplomacy. In the end, only Tenochtitlan remained. Cortez then mounted a siege of the city, effectively cutting off Tenochtitlan from water and food. The siege lasted 8 months. The inhabitants of the city were also suffering from an epidemic of smallpox, which further weakened them by killing as many as a third of the citizens, including the new emperor. The Spanish were finally able to sack the city in August of 1521. They spared few lives. Cortez ordered the Aztec gods in the temples be replaced with Christian icons. Any remaining Aztecs were forced to leave the city, never to return. As for Cortez, he kept the basic structure of the Aztec Empire in place. The nobility learned Spanish and became intermediary characters, linking the old world with the new. The encomienda system was soon imported into the mainland, and millions of natives were exploited through this process. Overall, in less than 3 years' time, Cortez was able to defeat an army of 200,000 Aztec warriors with only 500 Spaniards through his alliances with local tribes, superior fighting tactics and weaponry, and a strategic wit. The only native group to benefit from the conquest was the Tlaxcalans. They were awarded more rights than other native groups. Some of these rights were right to carry firearms, ride horses, hold noble title, and run their settlements autonomously. However, they too fell prey to the smallpox epidemic, and there were not many Tlaxcalans left to enjoy these rights. Thank you very much for watching. This has been a Mr. Cos production.